All right, guys, a lot of drivers think that working more hours means making more money, but that is not always true, especially today with Uber's new pay system and their new algorithm. I don't always make more money than other drivers, but I do make more money in less amount of time because I use the right strategy. I work the right days, I work the right hours, and I work the right shifts. Like, I know how to maximize my earnings by working strategically. So now, by doing this strategy, I'm gonna break down how Uber calculates their fares. I'm gonna break down how their fees and their promotions impact your pay. And then I'm also gonna show you how I use surges, cherry picking, and strategy to maximize my earnings without burning myself out behind the wheel. Because guys, I know a lot of you guys think, look, I'm gonna work 12 hours, that's how I'm gonna make the most money. But that is not always true, and it is not always work. So let me show you guys, let me break it down. Stay tuned, and please like and subscribe. It does help. I appreciate it, guys. Stay tuned, and I'm about to show you how. All right, guys, I'm about to break down. This is my last week's earnings. This is all, and I'm gonna put it on the screen too so you can get a better view, because I know with this pie chart it's not that great. But I'm gonna break down Uber's service fees. I'm gonna break down what I made last week between May 11th and May 18th. And I'm gonna show you some of what Uber does to try to hide its fees and break it down to see how I use cherry picking, how I get a higher percent than other drivers. So stay tuned, and I'm gonna show you exactly what this is. I'm gonna break it down. If you have any questions, you have any comments, you have anything else I might have missed, leave a comment, please. I appreciate it. And I'll just try to figure this out, try to help you guys. So if I miss something, it's all good. I'm not perfect, but leave a comment and I'll try to help, and I'll make something else. We'll figure it out. But thank you, guys. All right, guys, this is last week's earnings. Now, I did get a flat tire. I did have the airport caught on fire, so I did have a few things, but I'm gonna break it down for you guys. Now, I also have right here, all right, guys, this is last week's earnings, right? So I made $923.99. That is the $747.51. Plus, I made $175.48 in tips. So my total was $923.99. Might out be up by a couple cents, but that is 52.9% of the whole service fee of what I made last week. Now, Uber says they broke down and said they took 24.8%. That's $350.17. Now, we do know that Uber does fudge some of these numbers. They do hide some of their other fees, some of their profits, and some of these other things, such as promos, insurance, taxes, and their fee. Like, we don't exactly know how much their insurance costs. We don't know how much the taxes is per ride. So we can't do all that. We don't know. We're not their accountants. So they can hide some of this. So all this 24.8% is definitely higher because they hide a little bit in there. So it's going to be a little bit higher than the 24%. Now, Uber claims that they pay us 70% of our fares. Now, mine is 52.9%. The reason mine is higher is because of the fact that I get a lot of tips, and I also do a lot of surges. I work the right hours, I catch surges, and I cherry pick. I do not pick every ride. If I took every ride, I would be a lot less than that. In 1 week, I'm actually gonna film. I'm gonna take every single ride and show you the difference between the earnings of taking all the rides and cherry picking and using strategy. Now, that also goes to the fact that I try to say is you got to work the right days, the right times in your area. Every area is different. So I don't know what area you're in or how it is, but I'm in Jacksonville, so this is all based on Jacksonville's numbers. Now, every week is different because TPC, this would have been totally different. I made like $1,700 and I probably worked less hours than I worked this week. And actually this week I'll show you how many hours I worked. I worked 33 hours and 12 minutes online. That was my hours online. 33 hours and 12 minutes out of the whole week. Now, you can work 12 hours a day times 7 is 96 hours a week that you could technically work without it shutting you off, without you being able to fully go back online. So you can work 96 hours. I only worked 33.12 hours. Now I had flat tire. I did the airport burnt down on Friday, so I was stuck with the rider for 2 hours at the airport. I couldn't let her out. So all those things make a difference, but I still made $923. Is that my best week? No, it's not. But that's how some weeks are. Not every week's gonna be your best week. It does change. Certain times of the year are busier. Think about it, Christmas and all that. Those holidays, those are busier. Now we got Memorial Day coming up next Monday. Should be a busy holiday. 4th of July is probably one of the busiest days of the year besides New Year's Day. So all those things play in a factor when it comes into doing this. So with all that said, I took home $923.99, but I had $175.48 in tips, and I actually probably will have some more tips pop up because not everybody uses the app all the time. So Uber does prompt them. That's the only thing I do praise them for, is they do prompt you over and over. Hey, rate the driver. Do you want to leave them a tip? They do make it easy for you. I know Lyft doesn't make it that easy. That's why a lot of people don't get tips with Lyft. So one thing they do good, but a lot they don't. But hey, I take the tip thing, that's great, but you know, one day they can improve on the other stuff, but we'll never know. But I am trying to just inform you guys with all that. So now you got $923 I made last week. Now I only worked 33 hours, so it's not too bad, but I had a flat tire. I did have the airport did burn down with a passenger in the car. Now if I would have been paying attention, or if I would have known that there was a fire, I wouldn't have took that ride. I probably would have made more money. It would have definitely been higher, but you know, that's why I try to say every week's different. Tomorrow's another day. It does not matter. It's fine. It just happens. It's just, even if I worked a lot more hours, I might not have made that much more money and just put a lot more miles on my car. Now I'm closer to an oil change, or now I'm closer, I need some brakes, or my tires are worn out, whatever. So you never know. It doesn't matter. That's why I try to say working more hours does not always mean making more money, but working smarter, using strategy, cherry picking, and chasing surges. And not really chasing surges, but correctly getting the surges. So you start off with a surge. That's how you're gonna make more money. Because think about it, when you start your shift, and if you can start wherever you want, and you can start off with a surge, $3, $4, even $1.50. That's more money, and it'll add up over a period of time. So you have to do that. It makes sense. It makes a lot more sense, and it makes more money. Now you do have to be careful with the surges. If somebody has a reservation and it pops up and it says reserve, because it's one of those reservations that aren't that far, nobody picks it up because it's too small, it's not worth the hassle, you won't get that surge. So always pay attention to that, because they'll try to sneak that in there to cover that person, so they don't even know that you didn't even have the reservation. Most people that get a reservation, that use one that's a short distance, never notices that it's never picked up by a driver, that literally it's just thrown to us as a ride, so they don't ever know they're paying a fee for no other reason. So a lot of you people, all these little service fees and expenses right here, or right here with the Uber, that stuff you're paying for reservations when you don't need it. If you have a reservation, or if you want to use a reservation, do it when you're going at the airport. When you're landing at an airport, that way you can save money. As long as you do it like a day or two ahead of time, they don't know if there's any delays or anything, it's going to be a cheaper price. The later you wait to use the reservation, the more it's going to be. Even at a football game, anything like that, if you do a reservation early on, that way you can save money, because anytime you leave a place with a lot of people at the same time, a reservation is the best way to do it, because that way you're saving money on the surges. But if you do that, please tip your driver, because I'm giving you tips trying to help you save some money. At least pass it on to the driver. At least Uber's not getting it, that's fine. I do want to help you save money, but at the same time, at least pass it off to the driver so they can at least make some money. But trying to break this down and show you guys what it is. Now the fare, Uber's fare is a base fare, and it's per miles times how many miles you are. So they're doing a certain amount per mile, dollar wise, plus a base fare, plus per minutes based on how long it's going to take, a booking fee, and then if there's a surge included, that all goes into the fare for you guys. All right, so Uber's service fee was 24.8%. That's $350.17. Now that's not the whole story, and we know that, and I just touched on that a minute ago. Because you have taxes, which they tell you that's what they had to pay, but how do we know? We don't know. And they definitely are making some extra profit off of that. Promos, the discounts that they give to the riders. Now those promos are passed on to the driver. That means they want to give them a discount because they want to go to Orlando. They're trying to compete with a taxi company, with Z-Trip, or if it's in Orlando or something, it's the Mears Cab Company, whatever, right? If they're trying to compete with them and you're taking a long trip, you ever notice why the fares aren't that good? Is because of the fact they're trying to lower the price so that they'll take the ride and not go with somewhere else, but they pass that on to us. Because the other day I had a trip to Orlando from Jax Beach for $95. It's 140 or 50 mile trip, something like that, and it wanted to pay me $95 for a regular reservation. Now I had in the past reservations from the airport and some other areas, St. Augustine, for $120 to $145, which was close to $1 a mile. Some were comfort, some weren't. But those weren't too bad of a thing because they were earlier in the day. Then I got to hit the airport again when I got to Orlando, and I made like $80 off that ride from there to the Disney area, and then stayed and worked and probably made $200 or $300 that day because it was a busy area. I used to live there, but now it's changed. That was 6 months ago. Now they want to pay me $95 to drive that far. I'm driving 2.5 hours for $95. That is not worth it. Then you got to take out the gas. I'm not going to use a full tank of gas, but I'm going to use about a half a tank. So you're talking about $20, and really I'm only making $75. Now you're saying, well, what if they tip? That's a long ride. They're probably going to tip you. You're going to the airport. Yes, but I've had people that I drove to Orlando Airport with $100-something ride not leave me a tip. So a long trip does not always equal a tip. Now I usually will say if you're about an hour drive, it's like $70 or something that you're getting. So they're probably paying like 140 or whatever, 180. They're going to actually tip you. But when you're getting on those longer trips where you're getting like $150, $200, what you're getting, they're most likely don't tip. Now that's not everybody, but most from my previous past things, they didn't tip. So I'm more wary when it comes to a long trip. I don't really bank on them giving me a tip because they're paying so much money. They're not going to tip you. They're thinking you're getting a lot more than what you're actually getting. So that's why I'm trying to break this down, because some of you new guys want to see it, but also some of the riders can see this stuff and they can see like, look, we're not getting 70% what Uber says. I got 52.9% because I used a strategy. I caught surges. I knew what times of day to pick, and I didn't take every single ride. If I'd have took a lot of those rides, my percentage would have been a lot lower than that, and I really wouldn't have made any money. But I did get a lot of tips because I keep a clean car. I keep my car, I look out for people. I do a lot of stuff. I discussed those in another video. But also now with customer promotions, Uber also deducted $17.25. It was like 1.2% for customer promotions. But the reason why that number is so low with me is because of the fact that I didn't take all those other rides where they were giving them a lot of discounts. I only took rides that really made sense. Sometimes I took rides I thought would make sense and they didn't necessarily. I make mistakes. I'm not perfect. But I keep that number down because I don't take a lot of those long trips like to Orlando. That promotion probably been a lot higher because I would have done that. I'm not going to do that. That's how I stay away from it. That's going to usually be a lot lower from me. And I'll show you in another week. I'll do a whole nother video and I'll take every single ride all week and we'll see how much I make compared to this. And I didn't even work but 33 hours. I'll try to work about the same so we can see from there. Now the auto insurance, that's 28%, 28.97%. Or it's actually 2.1%. Yep, no. All right, now we got the insurance and expenses. 19%, it's $269.09. Now, these are operational expenses. They are necessary, but Uber controls these numbers. So the expenses that they're saying that they're going to use the app, stuff like that, well, think about it for just 1 second. If you're a driver and if you're a rider, have you ever had to contact customer service? How great is it? And what country are they in? They're definitely not in America, and they definitely aren't very helpful. So where are those expenses going? Because they definitely aren't going to customer service, which should be their main priority, because if you have an issue, you get charged or whatever happens, you trying to contact them, going through that whole process is a nightmare. And they do it on purpose, but at the same time, it's like, well, where's your expenses going if you're not spending to go ahead and make that better, which is not that hard. You're actually doing it the cheaper way. You're making it a nightmare so people can't complain about stuff when they actually have an issue, because some people do abuse the system, but at the same time, we're not everybody. Every situation is different. So with that, insurance and expenses, that number is manipulated, and is definitely a lot of that is going into their pocket, is not necessary, because when you think about their insurance, this is commercial insurance. Now think about it for a second. I'm a driver. I have a rideshare policy. Not every driver has that, but I pay extra money for my insurance. Other drivers don't. But they have the commercial policy that covers the passenger during the trip. Now, Uber doesn't care about me. They only care about the passenger. If something happens, we get in an accident, they're covered through Uber's commercial policy. But now, if you go back to the Uber Black videos I did in the past with those guys, one of my first episodes, the Uber Black guys have to have an LLC and they have to have commercial insurance in order to do Uber Black. Plus they have to have a newer car like mine but bigger, and they have to have black leather interior. So they have a lot more money they have to put into it, but their prices are a little bit higher also, but not always. They still go through the same issues. But saying that is, the insurance, Uber Black drivers have commercial insurance. They can cover you and you still are charged for it through Uber, but they already have it. They pay extra for it. So why are you paying for it? So that goes back to show that they are manipulating the numbers when it comes to insurance and expenses. The taxes are about the same way now. Yes, they do have taxes. Everybody pays taxes, but is that the right amount of taxes? I don't know. It is a low number, but at the same time, how do they do the taxes? How does it work? Because at the end of the year, what do they pay it on? All this stuff. I mean, we still have to pay taxes and we're drivers, but we're 1099, so we're not employees. So they're not paying that much taxes. But even though $28.97, that's kind of a close to a number, but we still can't completely agree or believe them. I don't know, but I'm not a tax person, so you'd have to look into that. But all right, so that ride in Jacksonville that you're going to see on the screen or you've seen before, this is why I'm going to break it down. Now, I don't exactly know what the price is, but what the price is doing, what it probably was, figuring out. Now, I don't think there was a surge at the time, but you know, there's two different surges. There's a surge in the rider's app, there's a surge in the driver's app. So there could have been a surge on their end, but we didn't get paid for it. Then we could have a surge on our end that we actually do get paid for. So I'm not 100% sure if we do get some of that rider surge or not, but I know we do get the driver surge if we have it. But at the airport, it is kind of comes and goes, and then you have to be there when it comes on there, or you have to be getting there when it's already there, because sometimes it doesn't just pop on and you get it. So it's very different. So that's what you got to think about. So right here is what the trip was. For the trip was only 22 miles and it was like a 30-minute trip, but it was an airport trip. So airport trips, when you land at the airport, it's going to be more money than when you're going to the airport. And why is this? Is because Uber figures that once you land, that you don't have very many options. You either got Lyft, you got Uber, or there's whatever local cab companies around there. So unless you have a friend coming, you're trying to get a ride, you're kind of stuck. The prices are going to be a lot higher than when you're going to the airport, because usually when you're going to the airport, it's going to be a lot less money, because of the fact that you have options usually. Because if you're at home or something, they figure you might have a neighbor, you might have somebody that lives with you, whatever. That way they figure you got options, so the price going to the airport is always cheaper. But this was an airport ride at 9:30 at night at Jacksonville International Airport. Usually around the nighttime their prices are a little bit higher. But I remember I only made like $24, and that was with a tip. It was like $18 and change, and then I had like a $5 tip, so it was like $24, something like, or $23, something like that. So that makes a huge difference. So usually UberX in Jacksonville is going to pay about $1.24 a mile, and that's what Uber's charging you. Now it's not going to pay the driver $1.24. Now it's usually charging about $1.50 a mile, or maybe more than that for Uber Comfort. But now I've noticed when I have a comfort option with this car, usually it will average out to $1 a mile, but sometimes it's still like 90 cents or 95 cents a mile. These trips are going to be like 80 cents a mile, sometimes 50 cents a mile. It depends. And that's the big thing, is when you're at the airport, you have to be picky. Don't just take whatever it sends to you. A lot of the longer trips going to Georgia or going to the Panhandle or whatever are going to be 50 cents a mile. And basically they're giving them a deal. They're giving them promotions, and they're passing it on to you, because at the end of the day, all they care about is that riders catching that fare all the way to wherever they're going and choosing them over Lyft or taxi companies so that they can get paid. They don't care about the wear and tear in your car. They don't care about the gas that you have to spend. They don't care how far it is to get there, and that you're going somewhere that has no other rides, or you're going into Georgia where you can't pick anybody else up because you're in across state lines. All those little things where you have to ride back empty plays a factor. Uber doesn't care, because they don't have to worry about it. So when you break it down, $36.84 is basically what they paid. That was basically the fare. So it was like $27 base fare. Then you had $1.24 per mile, plus the miles, which was, I believe it was like 22 miles is what it was, and it took 30 minutes. So it was like 20 cents, 30 minutes, $1.24 a mile. That comes out with a booking fee of $2 and then $1.15 service fee. That you're looking at $36.84, and they might have actually even paid more than that. They could have paid $40, they could have paid $38, they could have paid a couple dollars less because they had an Uber One or a membership where I think you get like 6% off or something, which really is Uber will probably just raise the rate and then they just drop it to make it look like they gave you a discount when really they just gave you exactly what they wanted to charge you in the first place. So, but that's how it is broken down pretty much. That's just an example, and I don't know for a fact what that lady paid. I don't ask them, hey, what did you pay? I don't do that. It's really none of my business. I already can kind of figure it out what they probably paid. It's usually like a third, like sometimes it'll be like a half to a third more. Like say we get paid, usually it's like 30% up to like 50%. Sometimes it's a little bit more, but not much more than that. Now there's times when you will catch a surge, and if you go into a non-surge zone, you'll get a small ride real quick that's like normally a $5 ride. You might have a $10 surge, and it gives it to you. Uber probably loses money on those rides because of the fact that that's just paying you. But then I've heard sometimes it does charge the passenger a little bit more, but they still probably lose money like that. They probably don't really like it when you take a surge and go somewhere. That's why they normally just give you a trip that you don't really want to take when you have a higher surge. That's why it plays a big part to just cancel that ride immediately and then keep the surge and then get another trip that you want that will get somewhere that you want to do, because you don't want to lose the surge. It makes a huge difference. But I just want to try to break this down for you guys, how the whole Uber service fees, how they hide different fees, how it works. But if you've seen that I got 52.9%, I believe it was, for last week, was because of the fact that I catch surges. I don't take every single ride, and I work certain hours of the day. I'm very picky about what I take. Doing that, having patience, pays off. Now sometimes getting lucky, getting a good ride makes a huge difference, but that's the problem too, is when it comes to cherry picking, it's not about a unicorn. That happens every once in a while, but that's not what you're trying to get. You're not going to decline 300 rides. There's no point of doing that. You're just looking for some real long ride, when I might take a ride that's $5, but I'm only going 0.2 miles to pick them up, and I'm only driving a mile. It makes a huge difference, and then I'm getting a tip. That's why I had $175 for the tip. I did the bar hopping trips on Saturday at Dancing to the Streets. I did a bunch of $5, $6, $7 trips. I got a bunch of $2, $3, $4, $5 tips that turn the rides into like $10, $12, $15, whatever. Makes a huge difference, and that added up throughout the day. But I didn't use that much gas. I didn't drive that many miles. It saved wear and tear on my car, so it made sense. But now next Saturday, it is a holiday weekend because you have Memorial Day on Monday, so it still might be busy. But during the daytime, it's probably not going to be that busy because of the fact that most people are going out at night on a Saturday, so they're all hungover. They're hungover from Friday night, so they're not going to get up. Dancing on the Street started at 12. It was hot, so it was busy, but it kind of got busier throughout the day. So a lot of people went out early, then they left because they decided it wasn't worth it. That's why I'd do a ride and I'd probably get a tip a couple hours later because they were leaving. They would get another Uber. That's when they would tip me. So that's why you don't ever rate somebody 1 star or whatever because, oh, they didn't tip me. That tip might pop up 2-3 days later, might pop out hours later. It could pop up immediately. Some people give you a tip immediately in the car. Some people don't do it until the next time they use the app, because when they get out of your car, they're not always thinking about, oh, let me tip this guy, let me rate him. They're not even looking at the app. All they're doing is getting out of the car. They're going to work. They're going home. They're going to see their kids. They're going to sleep. They're doing whatever. They're going to the bar. They're trying to get a drink. So then maybe an hour later when they leave to go get another Uber, that's when they'll tip you. Those people, they're going to tip you faster than people say they get out of the airport, they get home. They're tired. They're not going to sit there and worry about tipping unless they did it during the ride. That's different, but not everybody's thinking about it. They had a long flight. Maybe they're aggravated. I had a guy in there that was cussing out the airport about there's luggage and about missing this and that. So a lot of issues arise from the airport that can cause issues to where you might not get a tip immediately, but usually airport trips are going to tip you. Normally when you go to the airport or when you come back from the airport, they're gonna tip you. Now there's that few percent that don't, but most of them are going to. That's just how it is. It's great. That's why I genuinely sometimes will take a little less fare, but I try not to go under $20 when I leave at the airport. It's just not makes sense unless it's not that far. I might drive them if I know it's going to be busier in 30 minutes because I look at that Gridwise app. So that's another thing too, is use that app, guys. Scan that QR code. I'll put a thing on the screen for you guys. It definitely does help. It's an affiliate link, so it's a paid promotion. I do appreciate it. Thank you, Gridwise, and then thank you guys. So please, if you want to know when your airports are busy, if you want to know what events are going on in your town, if you want to be able to track your mileage and your earnings a little extra than Uber, just to make sure that you're getting paid what you should compared to what Uber says, use the Gridwise app. It's $9.99 a month. I've been using it since I started doing Uber. I still pay for it. I still use it. Even when I had another job, I was doing it part-time for a little while. I still was using the app. It's $9.99 a month. It's not that much. It makes a huge difference. It helps, especially if I'm going to the airport. So if you guys scan the QR code, I'll put a little thing on the screen so you guys can see it. You scan it better than seeing that, but I do appreciate it. It does help the channel. And then I just wanted to show you guys kind of how Uber's fares are. And if there was anything I missed, leave a comment. I'll try to address it. You know, I don't know everything, but a lot of this stuff I can't really prove too much of it when it comes to what their fees and what their other stuff actually is. That's why I try to show you that a lot of times it's up to them. They control the numbers. They control what they say. We don't even know. They could even be lying at that much percent went to taxes or something. It could be a lot lower. It could be whatever. Maybe, you know, none of their money went to it and they're just lying. Who knows? I do know they have Progressive. That is their insurance. I do know that. But I know that even though I have rideshare, if you got Uber Black, they still all going to charge you for your commercial policy, regardless if you have it or not. But that's the whole different subject, guys. I do appreciate it. Like and subscribe. It does help. I just wanted to kind of break that down. I'm going to do some more videos about some other stuff. If there's something else I haven't touched yet or something else you're trying to see, let me know. I might be working on it. I might have already done it yet. I don't know. I can't get to everything that quick. I got to do it a little bit here and there as I can. I still have to drive. I still got other things to do. So I'm trying my best. If you want to help, please DM me. I appreciate it. Thank you guys. And you guys have a good day. So guys, as you can see, more than half of the fares go to Uber. They do not go to the driver. A lot of people say, oh, I had a passenger the other night say, oh, what does Uber get, like 10-15%? I says, no, we only get like 30%. Sometimes we get 40, maybe 50 if we're lucky, but there is no way that Uber is going to survive off getting 10 or 15%. Otherwise everybody would be dying to do Uber because we'd make a lot more money. It'd be a great job. I'd be doing a lot more hours than I'm already doing. But that just goes to show, guys, that Uber does take 70%, sometimes 60, sometimes we're lucky they take 50, but that's all we're getting as a driver. That's how you should know. So if you're thinking about doing Uber, you got to be smart about it. Use strategy, use cherry picking, know the times, know the days, know your area. That's the best way to do it. I don't know where you live at. I don't know what times are best where you're at, but I know where I'm at, what's best. And even then, sometimes the normal busy good hours are not exactly the best. It just depends on the time of the year or just what's going on that type of day. Sometimes you get lucky, that gives you a boost, that makes a difference. Sometimes you just have a bad day. That's just how it is. You just keep getting crappy fares. You don't know what to do. You got to take something at some point, but it's hard sometimes. It's a lot harder than what it used to be. So I just wanted to break it down, kind of show you guys. Like and subscribe. I appreciate it. Thank you.